You all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
So that is climate activist Greta Thunberg. And she is going hard after the UN at the Climate Change Summit. She did that earlier today. And basically, the whole purpose of the speech is to try to spur people into action on climate change, to spur government leaders into action on climate change, because really, this is a problem with the scope that really lies in the purview of government action. So now, not only is she trying to make the case, but she's also showing that what politicians are currently doing and what world leaders are currently doing is not actually enough. And so I love that. I love that she's going after, hard after these world leaders, and we need more of it. I want to show you more video to kind of put that into context, because it gets more powerful. Take a look.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
All right. So obviously super, super passionate, understandably so. Because basically, if you're not angry, if you're not passionate about this, then you don't really understand the scope of the problem. But I wanted to stop there so I can point out something interesting. So in these discussions of climate change, even among adults, we never really hear about the how our world runs on this fallacy of infinite growth. All of our economies run on this entire idea of infinite economic growth, that we can just keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. Well, but it doesn't work. This doesn't. This entire theory does not take into account natural resources or actual real world limits on things like um, resources, which are of course finite. Environmental damage. There's only so much you can do before you change the ecosystems. Those are real things, and we know those are real things because they actually happen. Okay, we can see them in science. We can see that, look, our water is finite. Clean water is finite. Oh, but Jeff, you don't understand. We have an entire ocean of water. We're fine. No, that's salt water. Okay, and so no, that's not drinkable water. We only have so much water in our aquifers. We only have so much water in, for example, the Great Lakes. I live in Michigan, we're the Great Lakes state, right? We've only got so much water here, but yet we're allowing our politicians are allowing these corporations to go and take that money out, or I'm sorry, take that water out and sell it for money. This is why, while Flint does not have clean water, this is why, while we're facing possible droughts in places all across the world, because of the effects of climate change. So we have some very serious issues going on. And what, none of these politicians are standing up and saying, hey, you know what? She's right. We're in the midst of a major crisis. Instead, it's, well, we got to think about the economy, and we got to think about jobs, and we got to make sure that oil companies continue to get paid, because, if oil companies keep making money, then some of that money is going to find its way into my campaign. Or, you've got these major, television stations, right? Cable news companies that are like, some of that money finds its way into ads. So, can't really do anything about climate change. I mean, we'll put some solar panels on our roof or something and kind of evens it out. But then we're going to play nonstop ad after ad after ad saying how natural gas is a wonderful, clean burning fuel, when in reality, it's not. So all that stuff is. So now, Like she said, all they care about is actual money, which, like, infinite growth is a human invention. It's not real. It doesn't actually exist. So now she's going to continue, and she's going to go after politicians, world leaders, you know, that have been basically lying and trying to gaslight her on the issue of climate change. So let's take a look at that.
How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight. You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today, because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you.
Oh, damn. Okay, so this kind of anger, look, this is something, again, we should all be feeling. Why does it take such a young person to spur people into action? Why does she even have to be there? I mean, she shouldn't have to be there. Us adults should have been able to take care of this problem. It is a clear and present danger. And yet, for some reason, no, we have this entire apparatus that has been set up through cable news, through fossil fuel companies and donations for people to say, oh, that's not real. It's not a real thing. Oh, it's a hoax. Climate change is a hoax. Invented by the Chinese, as our president said. You realize our own military takes climate change incredibly seriously. Why? Because not only does it harm operations at home and across the world, but it also will end up being the spark for many conflicts overseas. I mean, look, you haven't had Bernie Sanders was laughed at, by the way, for this. But Bernie Sanders was laughed at for saying that the Syrian civil war was partly due to climate change. And it's because that area of the world was facing and is facing significant drought issues. That stuff's happening all over the world. So you have places in Australia that are completely and utterly uninhabitable. You have places in the Middle East that are becoming uninhabitable. You even have islands, tropical islands, that are facing basically extinction. They're getting wiped out due to rising sea levels, or will be wiped out. Miami will be wiped out by the end of the century by rising sea levels due to climate change. These are serious, actual problems. And yet there are people out there that say, oh, no, not happening. Not real. Doesn't exist. No, it does exist. Most of the world scientists agree. And so why does it take, with all these facts and with our ability to be able to look up any fact that we want, our technology, why does it take a young teenager to point out the obvious? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. But here's the thing. The reason is the corruption. It's the corruption. There are people that make lots of money off fossil fuels, and they hold a lot of power. These people have more power than country, than entire nations. Because, hey, look, without energy, you really can't run a nation, can you? And so these people, these oil companies, corporations have made sure that their product is the only thing that we really are allowed to use en masse. I mean, sure, we have, solar panels, we have, alternatives like wind power and geothermal and all that. But due to lobbying, lack of investment, etc., those are not, those are not in widespread use like they should be. That's a huge problem. These corporations have captured the world, and they are leading us to catastrophe. Now, the world's going to be fine without us. And that's the thing. The world will continue to live on, but after everything is all said and done, if the worst case scenario is allowed to pass and we do absolutely nothing, well, then we're not going to be here. Most of the species are not going to be here. And so, look, if you care about humanity in general and people being alive, as Greta seems to, she cares very much about being alive. She cares very much about the state of the world that her and her, generation are going to inherit. Well, she seems to care a lot about that. Maybe we should too. Maybe we should. And so here's the thing. Again, she doesn't want to be up there. She doesn't want to be in the limelight. You can tell. She's very socially awkward. But at the same time, she can't afford to not be up there. And that's the problem. A lot of these children, these younger people, teenagers, have had to grow up way too fast. Why? Because the adults in the room, the people in power, mostly, refuse to do the right thing. She wants to be a normal teenager. She can't be a normal teenager. And that's the problem. When the teenagers are more of an adult than the adults, that's a big, big problem. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.